All right, here we go again. Some more information about Byron that could be read by somebody that knows espionage when he sees espionage and Spycraft's extortion when he sees Spycraft's extortion. They weren't comfortable, most likely, with going to fruition on this extortion. Well, then they just get rid of the person the best that they can by bringing to light whatever the sextortion information is. That was the goal, was to sextort the gnomes. Like I said, it could have started years ago. As soon as they saw her. Again, the idea Swalwell with Chinese spies. A little bit different, but they identified him as somebody they could possibly manipulate, that was going to be in position one day. They may have actually put him in position because the Chinese did help put Swalwell in. I'm going to bump the volume up a notch here on my other new microphone. I'm trying to get my sound legs here. Well, they addicted Byron to that woman, and she noticed it. He didn't get there on his own. It could be this deep. This is the part that I can't investigate. I did, and I believe they do use direct energy at times, but there's no way for me to know exactly what they're using, because they can drug you and make it feel like they're using direct energy because you touch something and then you get that feeling. And they want you to believe it's something that it's not, so it might not be direct energy. And it might actually be drugging. I'm sure Byron was drugged along the way with GHB. And the secretary may have been also. That's espionage. I don't care if it's the best FBI people or CIA people you've ever seen. I don't give a shit. They're all crap to me. Sold the nation for their own self-elevation. So the way it would work is if Byron, first it'll be a little more mellower. They expect Byron to go there once a week. Then they expect him to do it twice a week. And every time he doesn't do it, he gets hit with direct energy, so he feels crappy, maybe even sick. But when he contacts the cam woman, all of a sudden they remove it. And they can actually reverse the process. I brought this up before, positive and negative ions. One type of ion makes you feel good. One type of ion makes you feel bad. So my volume looks like it shifted halfway through this here. I'm turning it back down. Or maybe the meter did. Maybe I'm just turning myself down too quiet. But I'll do some AI editing here in the future. I've already started some of it. The only, or the best defense is an unrelenting offense. So I expect you to move our own spies to find out, because they should have already known what was happening to the gnomes. Now, again, they'll probably say nothing because it'll lead them to their, their previous bosses that set them up in the bullshit to begin with. Showed them the way of the deep state. Their deep state master. It'll lead them to their deep state master. Right. All right. So there's no doubt. There's no doubt. It should be destroyed and ended. No mercy. And And there's other ways to do it. Again, they drug him and stress him out. His wife might. Okay, so I don't know their relationship. So Christy Nolan may have had a fight with Byron because she just was feeling horrible one day. But why was she feeling horrible? Deep state. And they get her to maybe direct something at Byron. It's a cuck thing. I've seen him do it for, what is it, 30 years now? Yeah, that's real. Over 30 years. I should have been taken out back and say he should have been Vince Foster. Tell you the truth. Yeah, they killed Vince Foster too. So again, that was some good information there. I'm glad that was released. I'm glad she took action. Again, like I said, people in those worlds aren't always who, they're actually sometimes better people than people that aren't. Because she's trying to make money. I mean, OnlyFans, they're making that kind of money. Right? Amazing. I don't wonder if I should have been born a woman. Maybe go eat some boobies. That was a setup, man. I'm not sure when it started. They're trying to insinuate that it started a while back, but I can't tell. It don't matter. I mean, when I saw her during COVID and all that, she was, I could tell that she, had a presence. Again, she was a congresswoman even before that. So again, just like how does China, how does Iran manipulate a congressperson or get them under some sort of sextortion at that point? So again, it's just kind of a similar but different. And I tell you, they go after the family members. And there's people in DHS that played her somehow. I guarantee it. And now they're probably talking shit about, got her. Who she thinks she is, making us do work. Now Mueller's here. He'll notice our greatness. Right. Yeah, I mean, again, they use stress, but I don't know what kind of stress they used. Because what happens is when he does what they want, then the stress is lifted. So he associates subconsciously, just like not looking at porn. And I was investigating it, but not looking at porn on X. And they cancel my account. Well, if you looked at porn, we wouldn't cancel your account. We wouldn't mess with you. That's really it. Believe me. And there is a projection. You just don't know what's going on in your heads. Again, a lot of the Rasta type people understand that your mind is not your own, but yet, they go too far left with it. Right. I studied a lot of different things. Lyrics is very interesting to study because that's where people put the truth. They're afraid to speak it. So they put it in music, as they used to put it in science fiction. And it might still be in science fiction. There's nothing wrong with Byron. Oh, I said Byron, didn't I? Okay, so he's backwards or something. I'll try to figure that out. That's a cue. Okay, Brian is his name. As far as the internet being forever, this is important. Somebody needs to do. I spoke about the deep state before you started talking about the deep state. Y'all need to be speaking about this stuff and how you believe that he was spycraft adulterated through espionage. He's a victim. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's like people who were a victim of the sex cult that the FBI busted, that the CIA put into operation a few years earlier. What is it? NXIVM. NXIVM is what it's called. NXIVM. It's weird. That even makes me think it's. I think it's CIA. I think CIA put this in the like rogue CIA. But you call it Nexium. I believe Nexium was. See, I'm waking up. See, when they did that, now the system's trying to get. They lost their hold, and they're down. They're illegitimate, and I'm legitimate. So he's just like a victim of Nexium, but it's done a little differently. So when he's online, he's seeing stuff. It could be the typo thing they do to me. Every time he turns around, there's a typo on his post. If he posted, I don't know if he did any of that, but or if he sends even messages or texting. Again, if we go to the psychology of Nexium, that's a good one to look at. They use that on him. And they're using it on me. Every time I'm explaining something, you should go to the 3 psychological principles of I call it NXIVM, I guess, or whatever it is, but it's Nexium, right? And you should realize that that's what it is. Obedience and what was the other? Let me see what they are again. They brainwashed him. That's what it's called. That's what we used to call it. I don't even know what you would call it today. Deep state, I guess we call it today. Government losers. All right, this is isolation. Right. Gradual escalation. I speak about that. I didn't even know that was there. Foot in the door. Right. High arousal manipulation. Rainier capitalizes on high emotional states such as fear or extreme elation to bypass rational reasoning and install just do what I say and all your dreams will come true. That can be done subliminally, subconsciously. No, the government should be hot on their tail to figure out how they did it. Again, ad feeds, social media feeds. If he's on like that, I don't know. And again, if they're using GHB at any stage of it, that's a sexual enhancing drug. So, all bets are off once they use that. Well, what they do is they put the victim in high drive and then remove all possibility of consortium. They removed consortium for him. I always have all these women trying to turn me on, man. I thought they were real trying to have a date, and of course I was a catch, but I'm not a millionaire. Millionaires were paying them like crazy to do it to me. Right. So obedience, de-individuation, I guess is how they said it there. Depletion, they depleted him. Right. And we do that with, the typos and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's like a Groundhog Day. Oh, here you are again. So eventually, subconsciously, if he does what they want, then they let him up from that. So when he's going online to the woman once a day for, a couple days a week, they let him be until a certain point. Then they go, bam, they reintroduce all that mess. Then when he goes there 3 times a week or 4 times a week, then they back off. It's a major spy incident. And those government people were part of it. I guarantee there's people at DHS. See what's going on? There are people at DHS that are part of it, man. They're walking around laughing, and their bank account just got bigger. Or will get bigger. Will they be promoted? Oh, act like your buddy. Oh, yeah, I'll help you. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's okay. You can do that. Do that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. go over there. they're just like Rainier, man. People in the government, they're like Rainier, but they have different parts of the program. Those are my coworkers, man. Rainier and his friends. I'm serious, man. They're sickos, man. And what I believe is there was corruption that I didn't know about. And the inference was, yes, when they started busting people in Baltimore for, dirty money and corruption in the federal government, they said, yeah, we're starting now. But it was always there. And as far as DHS goes, that woman in Hawaii said, I paid DHS this morning. What are you doing here? All right. Not in a million years would I think that would happen. That's in the Serpico movie, too. But again, if you're messing with me from DHS, you're going to have Serpico type things happen to cue the world and myself that that's what you're all doing. Well, the reason the planet's being destroyed is Hashem is doing everything and has been doing everything to change you, and you won't change. All years ago, like centuries ago, they would change after a certain period of time. And again, it takes like almost a lifetime. In some cases, more than one lifetime. Again, I bring up the fact you have to remember that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. Some people say a century, some people say 4 centuries before they were delivered. No, somebody's acting like this is acting like it's just strange. It's on Brett Bart, but they're trying to act like it's the right wing perspective, but it's bullshit, right? I think they're part of it. I think this guy Nolte or whatever. I think he's part of it, unless he's quoting someone else. John Nolte. If he wrote this, I don't know if he's quoting someone else. It's bullshit. He's trying to put crap on. He's trying to take the onus off the spies and put the onus on Bryant. So Nolte might be one of the spies. No, this is classic spy manipulation. Now, she might not be a spy, the woman. She could be, but probably not if she was telling them to slow it down. Right. So somebody else was doing the manipulation because she wasn't feeling comfortable with it. She may have seen something. She may have seen something online and she kept going with it because she was making money and she could see it. But then she probably was like, no, I don't want to be part of this anymore, which does happen. Right. Trump is disrespectful of Congress. I'm poopy poo. Freaking losers sold out to foreign nations. That's who they are. Well, yeah, Mondani has to be careful and watching something on the side because if he loses his tax base, what's he going to do? Now, of course, he has a pretty large community there, but well, Jews are slow to leave New York, but this may do it. I don't know. A lot of history they like to retain. We might finally say, let's move off to Miami. Right. I mean, a lot of them have both places, New York and Miami anyway. Oh, they claim, right? All the claim. Yeah, that'll happen too. This is the one that you're maybe not watching. They'll claim Florida as a residence. They'll stay more time in Florida. I don't know what the clauses are in New York as far as paying tax. But that's what a lot of them do. They'll claim Florida as their residence. And then only spend a couple months a year, a few months a year in New York. No, what Israel's doing in Lebanon is Lebanon. I'll tell you right now, Lebanon knew what Israel was going to do. I believe certain people in Lebanon and said, "Okay, do it and get with us when you get to that point, and then we'll have negotiations." Yeah, but that Me Too thing's real. I'm not making jokes. I've noticed it even in FBI. Like they're all trying to say I'm sexual. And I'm not. And I know, I can tell you're walking off to have sex. I was asleep and not a seer, and I guess I was waking up at that point. But I've always seen that. I ignore it and mind my own business. But you're in an academy, a law enforcement academy. Oh, we're going to go study. I mean, if I want to be as smart as, oh, you're going to have sex? Aren't you both married? But I wouldn't say that. I respected their privacy. Right. So this is the same thing that's happening in the government. And maybe that's what made them paranoid, that I knew their sexual reality. I didn't know the sexual reality of Jonathan Luna's lady friend until they tried to, still didn't know it, but they tried to convince me she was just like this backwards virgin loner. When they did that, I still didn't know. But later, when everything unfolded, I realized I was being put on. Right. Well, because she had done something around me. It just never should have happened. Shouldn't even have got my attention. Right. Oh, women had done that to me in the courthouse even before I became the bodybuilder dude. It was weird. But again, it was all set up. And once I learned that the deep state existed, before we called it the deep state. Right. It's insane. Like they're hitting on me, but of course the story will be that nobody hit on you. So that's why you never hit on anybody in a courthouse. Right. They got me a little bit. I sent a note to somebody. It wasn't a hit on though. It was like a cry for help, I would call it. I mean, they had me bad. Right. They had me bad. Right. And everybody knew it. That's the point. Like everybody knew what killed John. They don't know for sure what part it was. And of course, they don't know about the drugging, quite possibly. Right. It's surreptitious drugging. Or they might. Oh, they knew somebody in the deep state killed John. They know that part. Right. Well, you can't talk about it because they'll kill you. There's no protection. If I tell an investigator, they'll go, oh, he's crazy. Right. The best I could do was explain that there seemed to be a group of people at the gym that may have put a hit out on us government people. And I think they acted on that, but I just work with idiots. And they were, dealing steroids, most likely narcotics also. I called him back to say that too after I left. I'm like, I have a thought. And he's like, well, why would they go after John? I'm like, I didn't actually have all the answers at that point. I just said, it seems like, something. Right? They're selling steroids. They offered me steroids. They may have got wind that I turned them in. Of course, it could have been somebody in a courthouse working with them. Right. Or in law enforcement working with them. The DEA came around. They said, when I was doing an FBI thing, and the DEA came around and they were saying, hey, what up? He says, we got your stuff. They generally don't let us do that. Steroids. Right. He goes, he said, it's valid, but they don't let us do it. I'm thinking, yeah. But then again, I should have said, could have been narcotic. And that's the truth about steroids. Well, a lot of them do Xanax. People that do steroids do Xanax. They do, use Coke. Right. Ambien. Right. Thank you, Larry. So again, it's a spycraft thing. And it's, a place to start to see where they manipulated him is probably NXIVM. Again, isolation did occur. It could be people could be paid in the church to put him out, give him the cold shoulder, and then that makes him feel dejected. But what happens? He speaks to how much dollars an hour was that? Right. He speaks to, and the question is, why didn't he just? You can really have a good time with people with that much expenditure. Right? You don't need to go to this, right? Because he was brainwashed. 100%. I mean, that kind of money, geez. I'd have been married if I had that kind of money. Right. I just didn't have that kind of money. So when the deep state knows that I don't have money. So what do? They present a person with money, people with money. And then, of course, I go into the background at that point. Right. Conversation in November cost him $7,600. If I had $7,600, if I even had a $2,000 a month to spend on a woman, I'd been married. Right. Well, again, I don't know what the relationship was, but it looked like it's at the point of irrevocably broken. But what the deep state does is they keep you stuck in a marriage. That's another part of it. That's another part of the psyop. They keep you stuck in an irrevocably broken marriage because then they can play with your head around that marriage, which they did. That's deep state, man. It's a deep state hit. It's a hit that was financed by China, Russia, Iran through that deep state system. It's generally not a direct payment, but could be direct payments. It involves an extensive amount of online cyber stalking. But they have the CIA toolkit that the CIA people gave to their cronies, who are the deep state, and just said, "Oh, somebody stole it," so they can, sneak around on the internet. There's some scumbum that's a contractor for the CIA that's been dirty since day one, working for who? Brennan. Mr. Extort the House and the Senate by breaking into computers. That was. They don't care. You find out you broke a computer, they'll make you afraid to say anything. It could be anything. Yeah, we broke a computer. We got all the information. Whether they did or not, they'll run the fishing expedition, the extortion. They have an extortion fishing expedition, and they don't know anything. They make you believe they know everything. They make you afraid to say anything or do anything other than what they tell you to do. They could have done something like that to Byron. Or Brian, I guess his name is, right? I thought it was Byron. He's turning into Byron. Byron. Right. Yeah, they're victims. They're both victims of spies. And no, the people in the government that aren't victims of spies like that, they're corrupt. You get it? They may have at one time been a victim of spying, but they sold out. They knew Kristi Noem wouldn't sell out, so they went this direction. Which, I don't know Mullen. Again, I'm not doing this to put shit on Mullen, but as a nation, as Mullen standing outside looking at himself, didn't look too good, right? He could be actually a plant. Right. So that we have to make sure that Mullen stays safe and they don't manipulate him off of something he did years ago as a plumber or something. The stories about plumbers and women, right? So again, it's spycraft. I don't think she's a spy, but she may have been manipulated by spies to do certain things and go with it a certain way. Again, he could have been saying everything he's saying could be part of just this. What do they call that? I guess theater to a certain degree. Part of the fantasy. So the question is where he says, he told Dominic it was so much, she was so, and that his wife and he didn't think his family stands a chance compared to her, But he was addicted to her. There's no doubt. And that addiction most likely came from It's like he came from spies. So again, it's pretty intense as long because it looks like it went back to 2016. But again, you can't believe everything you read. Well, as far as figuring it out, again, at a certain point, it was a lot easier for them to do this to him because they had shifted him. Right? No, I don't think it's natural. Not at all. Now, again, there's also this thing on the planet that there's people that are sexual and not sexual, and this is the problem with religion. They're just ignorant fools for the devil, right? Because Paul acknowledges a difference in people. He didn't know anything about hormones back then. Again, that's what Kabbalah was here to do, to help explain more of things. People that connect into Kabbalah have a capability like me just to explain things. Again, I don't know if there's anybody else but me today. But over history, they bring up all the famous scientists and explorers and no, because I'm going back in time to 2016 and trying to isolate the power of the deep state in 2016. Yeah, I got hit pretty bad. That was when I was in Santa Fe. So they were pretty powerful. I actually ran into some Russians back then. They're not as available since the war has started. So the deep state had actual Russians. I mean, still probably do, but you don't run into them. They're not out there as the operators. And of course, they were operating Trump. So let me take a look here. So Kristi Noem was doing what in 2016? So 18. So she was already in the house, so they would be on him for that. See if they could manipulate it. Kristi Noem doing what? And then, okay, let me see this one. No, because we're conservative, this is the direction they go. If it was a Dem, they wouldn't use this. They'd use something else. This is how they ruin a Republican. So she had been in the house already. Right? So that was the focus. That's why they found it. Okay, and then she was a strong. Wait. Okay, she was a strong supporter of Donald Trump. That would cause it too. Right. Now, remember back then, nobody was afraid to do it because Trump hadn't started his anti-deep state move yet. And he's still limited because the people that would investigate the deep state, some of them are the deep state, whether they're Republican or Democrat. So she supported Trump, but that wasn't until 2016. I don't know what she did. Was she anti-Obama? Okay, she was anti-Obama. Okay, so that's why they did it. That's why. So I got to tell you, there's multiple reasons why they do something. Right. Well, at one point, I didn't know I was a seer. I didn't know any of this existed. So I'm online and I'm talking about the Clintons a certain way and certain things going on. It may even have been Vince Foster. And they're seeing it, you know. You got to get this guy, you can see. Like, hey, he's talking. No, Hughes made it clear that they were doing me. Johnny Hughes, a piece of shit, cocaine cowboy, because I could see. And I didn't even know what it really meant until later. To me, as just somebody that doesn't understand seeing, again, it could have been that I saw something, like a crime. So I don't know what I saw that I wasn't supposed to see. But I did see things. Like I knew little girl and big sister were having sex. Nobody else. Once I said that, everybody figured it out. But somebody ran back to them and told them. I'm sure of it. Because the deep state hit picked up. No, I work with the shittiest people on earth. That's why they're millionaires. Natali became millionaires. Right. So again, this all fits. If we go back, that it was happening in 2016. It started when she was in Congress going against Obama. It's how you ruin a conservative. Again, if they could have did it to Christie, they would have. So this is a world that's protected because people like Brennan don't let you investigate it. People like Comey don't let you investigate it. Again, there are others. Could have been Ray. I don't know. He's more quiet. I told him to be quiet. At least he was quiet. Again, it's harder to pick at him when he's quiet. But that, you know, as an FBI director, you have to pick and choose what you say. You don't want to affect things. Again, what Clinton did with the server, that's, you know, as far as that time period, it's kind of like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, how that works and how things were viewed during certain time periods. People did it, and then, you know, hey, there's a mess, we got to fix it. That's just kind of how it, and there's still messes, you know, so. No, you know, as spiritual people, it really doesn't matter what happened because this is reality. Again, the Christians are living a bullshit life. In fact, there's people in their circle that hated on them that facilitated that happening. I guarantee it. Some may have taken money. People in their church may have taken money to play a game with their heads and cause the breakup because apparently there was some sort of breakup. Right. But again, them staying in a marriage after what appears to be irreconcilable differences is also part of the deep state. It's also part of the spy craft because then they can manipulate you better because there's this, you know, they could play one side against the other. Right? They did my wife first, my ex-wife, and I thought she was crazy until they did it to me, you know. Like, oh my God, it's real. But at that point, they had her. And there was no way I was the guy that they were going to focus her on to do. Right. Again, I don't know if Christie had some arguments with her husband and said some things that they wanted her to say to him to facilitate that. But again, if you're spiritual people, and again, if they stay together, this is probably the best thing that ever happened to them. The fact that this is now known. Right? They got enough money to live the rest of their lives. They don't have to worry about money. It's a shame we need Christie Nome for the Shield of America because they want to put it in somebody who's compromisable, and we don't want that. So again, I gave you enough information there to think about it, maybe investigate a few things. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.